It was the spring of 1993. 6 months earlier, Hurricane Andrew had ravaged South Florida and Louisiana, and there were a lot of people here in this area that were rebuilding after the storm. Thankfully, our house, my family house in Bayou Black, wasn't too bad affected. We had to replace some roof tiles, but we didn't have too much damage. And so in the noblest of all Cajun traditions, we decided to help others rebuild their houses. One of the projects that me and my dad went on was to help rebuild a camp, a family friend's camp in Bayou de Cad. And so one Saturday morning, we loaded up the old bass boat with as much lumber as it could carry, and we headed out to the camp. And we had so much lumber in the boat, literally my dad said, go stand on the bow, son, so that we can get on planes, so we can get on top, because we had so much lumber in the boat. And we worked all weekend. We had a good time rebuilding part of this camp in Bayou de Cad. And it was Sunday afternoon, and we're getting ready to head back. Now remember, it was 1993. Their cell phones were in a bag, and you had to call, and you only got limited reception. No iPhones, no weather apps, no anything like that. And so we started to see the storm clouds start to roll in, and we got concerned. It was like, let's get out of here as quick as possible. Well, we got to the beginning of the lake, and the storm hit, and we were getting tossed around pretty good. 16-foot bass boat ain't made for no big waves. And if you know anything about Lake de Cad, you know it's a shallow water lake, and when that wind and that rain gets it going, it's pretty nasty. We were following a couple boats though, so I thought I was okay. But I ain't gonna lie, I was sitting on the floor of my dad's bass boat, and I was kind of freaking out a little bit. I'd never been in something like that. And what made me freak out the most was my dad had a floor drain on the floor of his boat, and I got really concerned whenever I started seeing water starting to come up out of the floor drain. And when I seen that, I tapped my dad on the leg and I said, "Dad, look, water's coming out of the floor drain." And he looked down at me and he said, "Son, see that boat in front of us? If they can make it, we can make it." My brothers and sisters, last night we celebrated the Easter Vigil. And one of the most beautiful things about the Easter Vigil is we have multiple readings. We have 7 total. We only did 3 because we had confirmations and baptisms. But most of the readings have a central theme, and it's for a specific purpose why we read those readings. We read those readings because we want to understand and continue to remind ourselves that God does a lot of wondrous things. And He does a lot of things that no one has ever done before. The first reading from the book of Genesis, God creates the earth, the heavens, the plants, the animals, and man, right? Something that had never been done before. The reading from the book of Exodus, where God split the Red Sea in 2 so the Israelites could escape the Egyptians that were coming for them. Something that had never been done before. And today we read in our gospel that Jesus Christ had risen from the dead. Something that had never been done before. But specifically we have to remember that Lazarus, 3 weeks before Jesus rose from the dead, was risen from the dead as well. And there's a distinction here, right? Lazarus died. A couple years later, probably Lazarus died again. Jesus Christ didn't just rise from the dead so that He can die in a couple months. He rose to eternal life, right? And that's the distinction that we make here. That something that seemed so impossible, seemed like it could never happen, happened. Because God is God. And my brothers and sisters, as we come to this Easter celebration, I think we have to remember that it's kind of like a checkpoint. We look back and we see the 40 days of Lent, and we see hopefully God moving in our lives. We see that hopefully those 40 days have become like a slingshot, have given us a lot of momentum so that we can really celebrate this Easter season. And we also look forward towards the Easter season, right? Not just to get more candy or have steak every night to celebrate Easter, to celebrate the resurrection, but to truly, hopefully get that momentum so that we continue to live as the Easter people. But the truth is, if we had just stopped all the engines in that boat in Lake de Cad, then we wouldn't have gone too far. And I don't know what Lent has been for you, whether it's been awesome or it's been horrible. I think we have to remember that today we celebrate hope. We celebrate that we're following Christ through the bad lake, through all the damage, through all the different things, all the struggles that we have in this life. who follow him to something that seems so impossible, life after death. That is what we truly celebrate today, rising from the dead and seated at the right hand of the Father, right? That's what Jesus Christ is, seated at the right hand of the Father. That we can truly be with him again in glory. That this isn't the end. And so, my brothers and sisters, we have to continue to remember that if we stop the engines and say, well, I don't know if I can do it, then we really are succumbing to hopelessness. We're not continuing to follow the boat. So as we come to the table, Lord, today, let us follow Jesus through the lake of this life. Let us hopefully follow him into Miner's Canal, and let us hopefully follow him also to eternal salvation.